like a duck or something.
It's my parrot.
Oh,
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our social media in a pandemic. We're joined this morning by the Chief Communications and Marketing Office, Tania, and I'm going to give her the floor to introduce herself. So go on.
good morning. Thanks for having us, Jasmine. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and just really talk to some of, the stakeholders within Killeen and the surrounding communities about using social media. This has been, I would say, a whirlwind for us in Killeen ISD. So as Chief Communications and Marketing Officer, there was an immediate need to get the message out as soon as we started to really have the, first inkling that we were going to have to shut down school to begin with. That was March 13th, and it became a plan of the messaging. And so it was something that we were really looking to figure out how to do well and make sure that we were some place that our families and the community could trust for information.
Yeah, and you guys have done such an excellent job, and that's part of the reason we asked you to be a part of this, because we had our webinar last week where we talked about, what effective social media actually means and how to utilize that. And you guys have kind of, trial by fire, have had to do everything kind of really quickly. So can you speak to some of the techniques and strategies that you've used to communicate your message?
So we always work to create the message first off and make sure it's clear, concise, and consistent. And then I think a lot of people, since this is something that has never been done before, we really worked to make sure that that message got to our families, our employees, because they're a huge base for us. And then we also worked to make sure that we then followed it up, not only through an email or through Connect Ed call, but then came on, posted it on social media, posted it on our website, and then had a discussion. So I've done a few different Facebook Lives on our Killeen ISD page because I really feel like just sending out a message, while we make it clear and concise and to the best of our abilities, there's always going to be someone who maybe says, well, what about my situation? And what about, how does this affect me as an employee, as a mom? What does that mean for teaching my kids at home? And so I feel like I've tried to use social media to have that discussion with our families and our employees and really serve as a place where they could go to answers, to get answers that they need, because there's so many questions. I mean, every day there's a new question that comes up that has never been asked before. And it is just because we're evolving as we continue to go on with this situation.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Your Facebook Lives are so popular. I mean, you get so much traction on it, and you do such a wonderful job, kind of going through those questions and answering them. Because I mean, we've talked about this earlier before we went live. We are, people. And so it's sometimes hard to connect with people because I'm notorious for it in my office. I'll get an email with a bunch of information on it and I won't read all the way through it. So sometimes it takes that personal touch of doing that. So that's amazing. I really like that.
I also think it's about just being honest. There are so many times when a question is posed and I just have to say, I haven't been involved in those discussions, seeing as there's one person to deliver the message for the district on Facebook Live and throughout the different avenues. It really is about if I'm not involved or if I'm not kept in the loop on certain things, then just being honest and saying at this time, I don't know, I'll put that on my list. I'll stop and write down and take questions. Everything from how do I get my, daughter's school pictures to how do I get my son's glasses out of his locker. There are tons of unknowns, but being honest and admitting what you do and what you don't know, not overpromising when there's so much, still happening with the fluid situation, and then making sure everyone knows that the health and safety of everyone is the priority. And so there are oftentimes decisions that people don't agree with, or that they wish there was another opportunity to solve in a different way. And some things are simply out of our hands. It is truly coming from an order that is, from Judge Blackburn to Governor Abbott to, all the way down to the school districts. And so while we would love, control to make certain decisions, they're simply out of our hands. And so just explaining that and having the empathy for people and knowing that this is something that, we're all just having to deal and cope with and learn from, I think goes a long way with our Killeen ISD families.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Every day, it's a new kind of challenge. We again talked about this before we went live. On a, on the chamber side, we have such a smaller scale of, all the different changes. Literally, things can change for you guys every 5 minutes. So, what can you talk a little bit about what your branding and content plan is for those things? Do you guys have people that are just kind of waiting on that side? Do you have just kind of a strategy for everything? How do you do it?
Well, I will say that I don't do anything alone. So that's number one. There's
Yeah.
a great team. Janlene really works with me on the social media and the graphic side of things, but there's a team far beyond that for community, for KISD TV, for the radio, for the hold messages, for marquee messages, signs. But it really is something where, I work with the cabinet members to really see, okay, in Dr. Kraft, what needs to be happening? What do we want to communicate? I look and observe as the questions that might be coming in or we might be faced with, and then say, okay, we need to answer this. And right now, when we changed our grab and go meals, we changed that graphic, and it was hard because our families knew that graphic and had been out there. So we needed to keep the same look of that graphic and show them that this was still the meals, but then also reflect that there was a change. So do we change the color? Do we change this? And so those small tweaks, while they may seem so minor to the majority of our families and followers, they are very big, well thought out decisions that we go back and forth. And I'm meticulous. So anyone who has worked with me knows that I do strive for perfection. Don't always achieve it, but that's understandable as long as I'm going there. But just to make sure that it's something that our families know. We have a color scheme that's been, thought out. And so, when you see something COVID-19 related with KISD, it's probably going to be yellow, red, and black. And those are our three colors we're working with. If we threw a blue out there, I'm not sure it would grab our attention of our viewers as much that it's an update. So there are certain things that there's thought out, and there is a team. I will say that the team is probably 3 people, and we work, I will say, around the clock to make sure that our families understand, and we're really being thoughtful, and we're trying to communicate in as few words as possible, but then always give them the information that they need.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. We spoke about that on our last webinar, which is having kind of a continuity plan with your messaging, even on a smaller scale. If you're a small business and this is your first time having utilized social media, small things like if your message is about changing takeout orders, having a graphic or having a color scheme is really important. And so I love that you brought that up. I think that's so important, and such the little things that you can do. So what has been kind of the experience, kind of the change of social media? So KISD has always had such a great social media presence, but what are some of the things that you've changed that have worked and haven't worked that you would recommend to our small businesses?
Well, I would say overall, we want to make sure that, if someone has a question, ask us on Facebook right now, because we're live and we can definitely answer those questions. But for other small businesses, for our scale of how things have worked, I think we've noticed that people like to have a person and a face they can connect with. That's worked. We've also talked about being able to be responsive when we have questions. So my advice would be, when someone has a Facebook, thread and a post and it's open, try and relate and reply to those messages, because that really is something that people know that you're actively using your Facebook account. At first, we did not have our DMs open, so our direct messages for our families, and we opened that. And we've now said, hey, this is what's going on. Our campuses are closed, our district offices are closed. Here's how you can get a hold of your campus and your principal. And then we've said, leave us any additional, information. And here's our COVID-19 website. So even if you just have an automatic reply, to get some basic general information, like if your hours have shifted, or if you're only open certain days, or if there's a way they can place an order on your website easily, put that direct link in that automated message and open up those DMs, because that is a form of communication that is underutilized, I think. Now, it is a painful task to reply, and painful in the fact that we could literally just have one person doing that all day.
Yeah.
And we don't right now. So there's only 2 people that are replying back and forth. So it is sometimes, taking knowing that you've got to carve out a chunk of time to really be responsible and be responsive to those folks, but it is worth it. So I would say that having your DMs off is probably not the smartest move. Open them up during this time. Be kind of available to customers, be available to your stakeholders, because they're looking for you. They're looking for those businesses. They're looking for a real face. In a time when we're all locked in our houses and sheltering in place, people want to know someone else is there on the other side more now than they ever did. So if you go back to closing your DMs after this, totally up to, that person, that entity, and how that can work for them, but open them up now because it will pay off.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. Again, one of the things that we talked about in the last webinar, and I love that you're hitting on this. This is amazing. Have open availability of information to your viewers, because people are looking for you. Facebook has become like the new yellow pages, right? It's kind of where we're looking for everybody and to talk to everybody. So if you have all of those kind of resources open to everybody, they're more likely to answer those questions and not be frustrated. So it kind of, alleviates some of that pressure.
I also would say, a win for us is we have really focused, and I have told our communications team, this is a time that people are looking at us even more so, and also to keep their positivity up. So Jilene had a great idea to do a district-wide spirit week, and we implemented that last week. And I will say just the energy that was kind of created amongst even our principals and our own pages throughout the different campuses across the district was incredible. We had a response on a district level, on a campus level. We could all kind of come together. It brought unity in a way that I feel was really unique to us. A lot of times our campuses and other districts will probably say each campus has a culture. Yeah. Each campus has a feel. Each campus kind of has its own they're their own little city. Yeah. And the district is kind of that governing body throughout the school year. This was the first time. And if you go back and look on our Facebook stream, you will see that there was participation from every single one of those entities coming together. And so that was, to me, what was just heartwarming, and to see that everyone wanted to be a part of spreading our Spirit Week and our district pride and our cheer and what it means to be in KISD. And it was beautiful. So if you're a company that maybe has different locations or has connections with different businesses, use this time to unite. Use this time to build each other up. If you are in the food business and you have a restaurant, partner with another small business. Find a way to make something that is, maybe you do one dish really well and they do something else really well. Partner or tag or unify each other, because it's happening in a beautiful way that I don't think anyone saw this outcome happening. But I will say our district, not only our page, but pages across the district have grown exponentially because of this. And I think it's because they know not only is my campus and my child's campus doing something, but my child's future campus, my child's high school campus, my old child's campus, the campus I work at, the campus that, the district page, everyone is doing something. And so you see that web start to kind of be created. And that's where you find beauty in a time when we're all trying to find anything that will make us smile some days, because it is so much hard news and so much fear and stress that is happening really for a lot of people, that just being able to give them that positivity and that, smile, to me means a lot. I mean, there was a video we posted on Monday about a dance party, and I watched the video and I actually cried at the end of it, not hard tears, but enough to say, it was beautiful to know that we were all doing something together and how this has unified everybody. And so it was unique, I would say.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that the teachers they've gone kind of out of their way, and so has the district, to do things to make people feel like they're still heard and still loved. Like the car parades were so sweet and so cute. And then I love recently the pictures of like all the teachers holding up the "We miss you" sign.
We miss you.
Yeah, it's so great. And I think in this time, and as you mentioned, we're all kind of forced to become innovative digitally, but don't forget the part of being positive. You have to put some sort of spin on this, because we all are kind of locked in our house right now. So it is kind of essential to do something nice for each other. So I really think that's great. I'm just going to take a quick moment. If you have any questions for Tania, please put them in the comments. We'll ask her live in person, and you'll get your answers there. So if you have any of those, drop them down in the comments right now. But till then, we have a great comment that says, wow, such a great piece of information. So I'm assuming that's towards, kind of the continuity. I think that's right when that was around. So yay.
Well, I think, for a lot of people, there's some, there's good things. I know early on people were wanting us to immediately close down, and we closed down for that first week. And that was a hard message to deliver, coming off of spring break, being able to do that. So I understand and empathize with those who are struggling with, the week-to-week decisions. And so when the governor came out and made that statement until May 4th closure, that was a big deal. And then now the school board and Dr. Kraft are looking at, okay, what does the next 3 weeks look like beyond that May 4th timeframe? And so for the people who are saying just shut down, it's really a much deeper conversation than just on the surface. There are a lot of people, their lives, their livelihood. The district has committed to paying their employees throughout the closure, and I think that was a huge gesture on behalf of the school board and Dr. Kraft, because there are some districts that are not as fortunate. And so that is huge. And then also keeping up the, business. There are decisions happening right now that are impacting next school year that we've got to start planning for, that we've got to make sure we are still moving on that pace. And so it is juggling, the district closure, juggling what's happening with COVID-19, and then also planning for the 2021 school year. It is a large amount of, I would say, meetings happening. So for people who are saying just make, the whole decision, just to quickly, there are a lot of moving parts. So I constantly ask for grace when they, ask. And I just say it's not one person's decision. It is a large decision that's being made. We're a district of 46,000 students with 7,000 employees. So it is no easy decision to make certain calls. But so I say that so people know why we don't always just jump and roll out a new set of closure, or just make a sweeping decision like that so quickly.
Yeah, and that's such a good message to put out there, because people only know what they know, and sometimes they don't know the due process of how everything happens. And so that's a good way to put that. I just know that y'all have done such a great job at communicating the message as quickly as you can. Me knowing kind of what that background looks like for you guys, and I'm impressed as a marketer how quickly you guys get that decision and message out there. So I think you're doing great. Yeah. So we have a question from Melissa. She says, what was your most powerful marketing campaign since this whole situation hit our community?
I would say probably the grab and go meals.
Yeah.
We really knew that our students needed to be fed. And when I think the first initial conversations really started on the 12th, the 13th, the call was made to cancel from the 16th through the 20th. And by the 15th, we had to have it kind of rolled out. And so we had to, do the closure overall, and developing out that website was, really a very quick turnaround to develop a whole website just dedicated to COVID-19, and then the graphical side of that, answering some questions. And so I will say the grab and go meals, because we knew strategically those locations had to be placed. We needed to look at how many different employees or school nutrition employees we, could have in certain places with limitations. And then the time, picking those times and then being able to effort them. So when we rolled out that campaign and said, okay, here's our messaging, it was, I don't even remember sleeping. And I think there's a large amount of KISD, folks who don't recall sleeping in that first, I would say, 72-hour period.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. I mean, our school nutrition team has stepped up in ways that, and even the community is thanking them. I went by a site on Friday, and everyone knows everybody. They know how many meals go in which car. They know how many people are there. They're waving hi. They know that the kids love certain animals. And so I think school nutrition, we give them kudos, but we don't give them enough kudos. And so rolling out that first graphic and that first campaign, and then also wowing people with knowing, there were I think it was 14,400 meals that they serve within 1 week.
Wow.
And so I wanted to, when I got that number and I, tabulated it, I was like, we've got to tell people how much we are serving and how needed this is in our community, and what these, men and women are doing when they come to work during this closure and continue to not only work, and put out a great product, but then also do it with a smile and have a connection to everybody. And so I would say doing that initial campaign and then doing the changing of the meal times to 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning. Would be my number one. And then secondly, it would really be the Continued Learning Center altogether. And then putting that on KISD TV and partnering with KWTX for the CW12. We had a lot of requests early on to say, can we create videos? Can we do this? And it was, yeah, we can do it, but how do we do it really, really well? And how do we make sure that it is giving those kids that continuity of instruction? So it's not just like, hey, here's how to do this, but it is actually relating to what our families are getting packet-wise or online. And so standing up that task force of KISD TV teachers are calling them, was pretty impressive. And then rolling that out, just shooting some videos and getting the graphics together for that, keeping the colors light and keeping the content. It's all about even down to the font styles of how we put messaging out there. So it was really impressive to see that happen. And they all happen so quickly. So I don't even know that I'm thinking about things as much as I was originally, because they happen so quickly.
Yeah. And you hit kind of it on the head there as well. Keeping your message still quality. So that, that age-old saying, quantity over quality or quality over quantity, it's getting that message out and still making sure that all the ducks are kind of in the row, to making that message go forward. Because a lot of our small businesses are, they feel very overwhelmed with all of the information that's coming through. Because like we've mentioned, every day there's something new going on, because we're all adapting. And so can you mention, or can you speak on keeping your content quality and how you can suggest that for social or for small businesses at this time?
Sure. So I write everything out. I'm a huge note taker. So anyone who knows me professionally or just sees me in a meeting, I'm always there writing notes of some type. And then I scribble on the notes and I try to write, okay, if this was the body of the notes, I write like the 3 main things that were the takeaways. And that is so when I need to take that message, when we actually decide to take that message and roll with it, that I remember those 3 things during that meeting that I wrote down, whether that was experience, knowledge, personable. If I wrote those things down, I need to make sure those are conveyed. So now I know in all of our messaging district-wide, I always need to tell employees where they stand. So keeping those main points throughout the entire time. Our number one thing right now is educating children. And then we have to go to meals. Meals are second important. And then our employees. So we've got 3 main focuses. We've got making sure our parents know, when is our closure extended through, how you can continue to get free meals from the district for your kiddos. And then also our employees are, not stressing or not having questions about the ability to be able to be compensated during this time. So I would suggest that any small business, take the meeting that you're in. Know what you're there for. So there's a topic for a meeting, and especially virtually, make sure you have an agenda, because you can get off topic really quickly if you're not careful. So always having an agenda. And then as soon as that meeting is over, write down, okay, what are the 3 or 5 big things that the takeaways? And that will help you always craft your message. I play around with words like participate, continue, finish. I'm like a word person down in the details. But if you're struggling to just narrow it down, just use those words and just say, our business promises to pay employees, continue to deliver a great product, have, safety and health at the top of our list as far as developing and being a customer service, and have a great customer service and be responsive to your messaging. Right there, those could be your 5 quick values, your 5 quick wins that you want to convey, and then follow it up with a larger message further on. But really make sure that you are getting those small points, because it's very easy for people like you and me and who are involved in so many different meetings to quickly get buried in the weeds. Don't allow that to happen too quickly, and make sure you keep true to those small wins.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, such a great point, is having a list. Here is what you are focusing on in this time. What is that message? What are you most focused on? I think that could really help people going forward, because it's like, this is, does this fall within this list? Okay, then we can
And keep your
move
list.
with
I mean,
that. Yeah.
I have a whole list of projects and different notes every day, but I keep them. And I mean, this is just from COVID. And I started a whole new binder just for this. And I think you've got to keep organized.
Yeah.
That is another big thing. Keep organized, because one day you made a decision and you felt this way, and then Judge Blackburn or someone else came on and made a comment, and then now you feel this way. But remember why you felt that way to begin with, and what your original purpose was, or your original idea was, because sometimes you need to go back to that to make sure you are meeting your why and your purpose for the community.
Yeah, and that's an amazing point. I mean, finding why you're doing this, because right now you can get lost in that, because you may not be seeing people. Maybe your business is completely closed and you're doing everything virtually at this point. So don't get lost in that why. And a good segue into connecting with people. So this isn't necessarily social media, but you've had to move a lot of your board meetings, a lot of your meetings to virtual. So do you have any suggestions on that? Like, what have been your do's and don'ts?
That's everything. That is my, really big message, is to test everything. I think that is something that, even when we explored, okay, our first virtual board meeting, what we needed to do beyond that was to say, I want to make sure we've got a, great idea for our public comment section. How are they going to fill that out? How are we going to be able to bring them into the meeting, communicate with those people? There are so many legal parts to a school board meeting virtually that is extremely stressful. We have a great team. So we've, tested the platform. We've all played roles. We have brought people in. And then when we wrote our message to our board members, we said, here's some great tips. So not only are we asking you to log on virtually, we're asking you to find a good backdrop, something that's not distracting. Make sure that we test your audio 30 minutes ahead of time. Find a place that is quiet for you, so that you don't have the dog running in and out, or that you don't have the kids saying, or what's for dinner, or something happening. But we really wanted to arm them so that we kept things professional, which is a huge thing, I think, right now, is maintaining some sort of professionalism when we're all working from home for the most part. And then bringing back that aspect of, this is a school board meeting. So what do you typically see? You typically see, the board book. You typically see those graphics. You see the faces of people. So we could have just had people's voices come in, but we really felt like we want to make sure people know who's making that decision, who's helping to bring that decision on. So making sure we use the platform that was secure and safe, and going to every different safety precaution possible to keep it that way. And then also broadcasting it. So we've never taken our board meetings on Facebook Live. We've always said, they're happening. And that was kind of a risk. But in the first one, we knew that there were so many different COVID decisions being made. We really had to make it available for as many people as possible. And I understood that was going to be a desire and a want. Now we're getting into some big business, some very, what's happening for years. So we may go back, because it was just so long and we had breaks and closed sessions. So we didn't work all that. We didn't practice a break. I don't know if you knew, last night we had a break in the middle, a recess.
Wow.
And so that was something that was like, oh, a recess. Okay, let me figure out on the fly what we're going to do, pull a graphic up, figure something out. But practice makes perfect. We try and strive for that. And just, I think everyone kind of knows that it'll be a little slower overall. Yeah. They're not always as slow, but when there's real business to be discussed, and we had to bring in 4 people from our architect team, it is a different pace. And so I think everyone understands that things are clunkier in a sense, but we just want to make sure everyone's heard. Bringing even back the view when we ask for a motion, clicking the view so that I make sure everyone's face is on the screen is a big thing, so that people can see who's making the motions or who's asking to speak. That's a really big deal for us, and for me personally, when efforting that type of a meeting.
Yeah. And yeah, it can be a little daunting. It's trying to figure out the dance of, how is it going to look to other people who, necessarily aren't used to kind of a video conference live stream onto the Facebook. So that's great. We have a question.
Sure.
I think it can be easy to lean towards the sell rather than towards the sensitivity of a situation. Many small businesses need a developed social media just to keep their heads above water. How do you balance the need to inform and the need to comfort?
It is a decision I take to heart, first off, because, my background is news. And so my instinct is to want to inform. And that goes across the board. I would tell people, I want you to wake up with me and join me, and I want to help you start your day and tell you what matters to you and what you need to know as you continue on your week or your day. So I have a embedded need, I would say, to inform people and make sure they're getting a trustful source of information. But in the end of the day, I am a parent. I am a wife. I am stuck in my home. I am, experiencing all those things. And I see what not only my family, but other families are lacking. I'm, talking with other friends, and, I hear of kids who are truly struggling, kids who are crying and missing their teachers, missing that. And I'm thinking, okay, I have the opportunity I've got a district that I can imagine if I'm hearing that on my own personal level, what other children may be experiencing throughout the district. And so we've got to find balance. When it's a big message, I'm out there and I will push out that message. But I want to make sure that if you're just looking for something positive throughout your day and you're scrolling on Facebook, that you're seeing that KISD is out there, that we're here for you. Just like we are on a campus level, our teachers are the ones there greeting people with a smile. Our school nutrition staff right now is on the front lines doing that for us. So it's a balance, but I don't want to over message or over communicate. And then there's stuff that is not COVID related that I'm like, you know what? We had an assistant principal who was named as a state finalist last week. So that is something that's incredible that we want to push out even more so because it's not COVID related. And we say, hey, here's some non-COVID good news. Here's something that is not related to being stuck in your home. It's about the incredible things that our, staff did when they were in their classrooms. So those are the wins. I would say I know when I'm about to put a message out. So if that small business knows that they're about to have to put a small message out, slow up on your positive messaging just a little bit because you don't want to over message at the time. Yeah. And then you're going to push out something really big that may not be a great message. You may have to say we're reducing hours or we are changing something up, and then go and talk about it and then push something positive out afterwards because you want that feed, you want the message to really be held pretty high up on people's levels of, seeing everything. And so it's a big deal for us to put a message out like that.
Yeah, and that's very, very important. So last week we talked about kind of the 7 deadly sins of social media. And one of the ones is over communicating, but also setting yourself up to this level where you can't talk about anything negative or anything along that point. So making sure that you make sure everything's cohesive and so that people aren't surprised when you kind of drop a big bomb on something like that,
I think a lot of people are always surprised because they expect that people never want to see that big message come across. And it's hard to deliver that message, but we know that it's something that needs to be said. So timing is everything, and not overly timing something is also, don't do it. If the governor gives a message, we're not going to turn around and give the exact same message. Even give a delay for a second before we just jump into something like that.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. Well, I know you're a very busy lady and you have a lot.
Did you know that the phone was going on? Did you know that Dr. Kraft was already messaging me?
Yes.
I do want to say really quickly that, for any business out there, remember what's actually happening. So our very first day of serving grab-and-go meals, it was St. Patrick's Day. And I made it a point to wear Ellison green, a green polo. And just because you have to think about kids, for us, kids know what day it is. They know those holidays. They know that it was Easter. They know those things were happening. So stay in tune to what's going on. Today I'm wearing purple because it is actually Month of the Military Child, and today's Purple Up Day. So for us in Clean ISD, it's something that we want our nod to our military families and our military kiddos, not only in our district, but across the universe. So if you are about to jump on a Zoom call or a conference call, maybe you can throw something purple on or even put a purple pin so that you can participate in prep a lot for our military kiddos this month, but more so today. So be relevant, know what day of the week it is still, because it's very easy to get wrapped up and not realize where you are when you're sitting at home. But then, visit our website, KISD.org. We've got a whole COVID page. We keep it up to date. Follow us on Facebook, and then make sure that you're following your students page, because not only is the district putting things out, but each individual campuses. So it's really important for us at this time.
Yeah. And thank you so much for all that you do for us. And thank you for taking this time here today. So that is all we have. I know you're busy. You have a lot of things going, but thank you so much again. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe and healthy.
Yeah.
Take care.